As all of you probably know already, there was an attempted assassination of Trump last night, and there's a lot to dive into this and go over. Very first thing though, before we get into anything else, I want to pray for the families that were involved. 2 people lost their lives last night. One I care about, the other one I don't. But the one in the crowd, their family is going through a lot right now. I hate to make light of a situation about this, but it is such an important thing that we need to discuss. But please keep that family in your prayers, and it's an absolute horrible thing that has happened. As for the shooter that lost his life, good for the men and women there that were able to stop that threat before anyone else was hurt. As you can tell, I'm not in my normal office right now. My wife and I are on a business trip, and I'm using some pizza boxes and cereal boxes right now as a tripod to be able to film all this. But there's a lot of things we really need to go over with this whole situation that I want to talk about, and I will be continuing to talk about this as time goes on. There's a couple things I want to talk about with the event and what actually happened. We're not going to dive super deep on that because I want to wait till all the accurate information comes out before we make an assumption on something, and then we need to talk about the preparedness and what to do after this and what is to come. Before we get into any of that, this is a horrible thing that has happened. Does not matter if you are a Trump supporter, if you're a Biden supporter, if you're a Kennedy supporter, or if you just don't care at all. It's horrible that somebody would have to worry about being shot while being able to express their freedom of speech and be able to talk about whatever they want. This is awful. Blue, red, doesn't matter. There are no sides to this. It's just a bad thing that has happened to Americans. So please don't get in the comments and be all political with this, because yes, I understand with everything going on, this is clearly politically motivated and with the election year, but this is a very serious thing where people lost their lives and potentially a lot more could have. So this is not against 2 different sides, red versus blue. So with that out of the way, there was an assassination attempt on Trump at a campaign rally at Butler, Pennsylvania. It was a 120-meter shot. There is a ton of videos coming out right now, and there's going to be a lot more coming soon, I can guarantee it. The shooter supposedly crawled up on a roof. There were a lot of people that said that they saw him and they tried to get people's attention, law enforcement and the Secret Service, whether that was a mistake on the Secret Service or the law enforcement side of not taking those threats seriously, or if there's more to that story where you hear a lot of conspiracy stuff. We're not going to dive too deep into that because right now there's just too much information that isn't 100% factual yet for me to be able to go into that. Now, somebody that is in law enforcement, I'm on SWAT, I'm a sniper. It's so hard to criticize those people after the fact because you don't know what they saw, what they were doing. You know, somebody just pointing this way, is that person drawing your attention more? To me, you know, you're gonna draw your attention to that person pointing. Are they trying to distract you, or are they trying to send you to another location to look another way? You don't know what was happening in that situation. I do think it's weird that in a lot of the videos it seemed like a lot of people were telling them like, hey, something's up, like someone's up there. Nobody seemed to assess that situation and do what they needed to do. Maybe they hesitated because they're like, I don't know if I want to take the shot. I don't know. I don't know the situation. I hate to play Monday morning quarterback because hindsight is 20/20, and those things are going to come to light here, I'm sure, after they investigate this further. And I hope we get a lot more information of what happened, if that was just a failure in the situation, if there was more to it, it was a setup and they didn't do those things on purpose, or was this poor planning and operations by the Secret Service and local law enforcement? There was confusion of who he might have been, which caused them to hesitate to take the shot, allowing this incident to happen. Again, I've been in situations like that. Those things get really boring depending on how long you're sitting there in one position, waiting, looking. I've been set up for hours at an event before, and I don't know if it was complacency on their end or if it was just the fact that there was other things going on with that. But I'm not naive enough to say what happened does not look incredibly suspicious, and they're gonna have a lot of questions to answer here in the coming days. Haven't heard any information about the caliber or the gun. It sounded possibly suppressed or a small caliber. It's hard to tell. It was a 120-meter shot, which tells me that if he wasn't able to hit, if he was a proficient shooter, a 120-meter shot is not a hard shot to take if you have the correct setup and you train with that setup. But if it's smaller caliber, winds and other things are going to take a lot more effect to that. So a lot of people in the comments I heard say, oh, it's a 22 because of the way it sounded, but also could have been a larger caliber that was suppressed and subsonic. So it's hard to tell until we actually get more information on that. But if it's a smaller caliber, definitely wind would play a bigger factor on a missed shot like that. A lot of you may have seen the pictures of him wearing a Demolition Ranch shirt. I do not think or believe in any way, shape, or form that Demolition Ranch has any form of affiliation. That is a t-shirt that is on a website that anybody can purchase. So please, I've seen this stuff in the comments on the internet. Do not go after him or his business or try to shine any negative light on him, because anybody can buy those shirts. That shooter could have bought that shirt just to blend in or try to say, oh no, it was a somebody that supported his business. Any other reason. Do not at all put any negative light on that, because I do not think there's any affiliation in the slightest at all, and I don't want to see his business and livelihood get hurt because of the actions of another person that did a horrible, horrible act. As of today, I've seen video of Trump getting off his plane and being completely fine, walking himself. So I'm sure they've already tended to all those injuries. Once again, please pray for the families that have been involved in this, with their family members, loss of life, injuries, all the things that are associated with an event like this. It is terrible for everybody that was involved, along with everybody here in America. So it is a terrible event, something that I wish would never happen to anybody. We have the right to the Second Amendment that we fight so hard for, but at the same time, we have the right for the First Amendment, and we have the right to freedom of speech, and we all should be fighting for that as a collective unit, and this should not be something that is dividing us. It should be something that unites us even more. I will be updating you further as more details come out. Unfortunately, I'm not in my home to be able to set this up and do this a little more professionally, so I'm sorry for the setup. I'm doing the best I can with this just to at least get a video out for you guys. Real quick, I want to touch on the preparedness. So I did a video last week on the things I take with me on trips or vacation or business trips, and some of the comments, there's a lot of criticism about why would you take that much gear. This, unfortunately, is the perfect example of why I do that. I'm on a trip. I've taken a similar amount of gear on this trip. It was an assassination attempt that I never could have planned for. Anything could happen at any time. Please be prepared. Do not let people fool you into thinking that everything is hunky-dory and nothing can happen anytime because we're in America. Anything can happen and everything can change very rapidly, especially right now in an election year with how much is at stake and a lot of other stuff that's coming out and going on. So now where do we go from here? I think one of the biggest things you can do is continue to be prepared. If you're not prepared, get there. Get yourself food storage, water, medications, firearms, ammunition, and have a plan set up for you, yourself, and your family. And then do the most important thing that you can do, and that is pray and get a relationship with God, because things are not going to get better. I can promise you that. I hate to say that. I have young children. I want them to grow up in a beautiful world, and that might happen, but things are going to get weirder at the end of this year, and I can guarantee that. So being prepared is the best thing you can do. I would love to be prepared, over prepared, and nothing happened, and now I just have a bunch of stuff I don't need. Would be wonderful. I have a lot of stuff I don't need right now, and I've been preparing for years, and I haven't had to ever use it, and that's wonderful. But what I don't want is something to happen and me not be prepared in the slightest. With all that being said, I want you and your family to be safe and do what is best for you. Get yourself set up and prepared. If you have any questions, please ask. I would be happy to help. I will be covering all of this as much as I can on social media, on my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, Grey Hive, X, all the platforms that I'm on. Subscribe, follow me on all of those if you're interested in keeping up to date with this, along with my normal content. Once again, this is a horrible thing that has happened, no matter what your political ties. This is terrible. And I don't want to ever have to make these videos. These aren't great videos to make. I would much rather make just my normal fun content than have to update people on these kind of things. But once again, stay up to date, be safe. Thank you all. I appreciate you all.